Let's talk about dogs and fireworks. Unfortunately, dogs and fireworks usually don't make very good friends, and if you're first-time dog owner or if you already experienced your dog being terrified and freaked out during fireworks season, this video is for you. In this video, I'll be sharing my tips that are gonna help to keep your dog calm and safe during the fireworks season. I want to start this video with two important facts. It's quite normal for dogs to be terrified of fireworks, and quite big percentage of dogs are afraid of fireworks. The loudness, the suddenness of the sounds, like other environmental factors, really scare them a lot. Also, if your dog is already suffering from some noise sensitivity, and by noise sensitivity I mean they easily get scared from sounds, they react with barking to somebody knocking at the door, they hear something outside of the house, they bark. So if they're very sensitive, if they actually have some noise phobias, they will have the hardest time during fireworks, and you have to be especially prepared. There is a fact number two. There is a data, at least for America, that on 4th of July or days around 4th of July, there is the most amount of dogs being lost, hit by the car, and running away and stuff like this. So I want you to take this thing seriously. I don't want you to be paranoid. My video is not to do some fear mongering, but I want you to take the fireworks season seriously, especially if you know that in your area fireworks are allowed, or there are neighbors that are going to be blowing up fireworks, or especially if you're a first-time dog owner. Okay, let's go to the tips. I'm a dog trainer here in San Francisco Bay Area, so my tips come from experience of other dog trainers, from knowledge, the common knowledge of the industry and stuff like this. So this is not just a random advice, but it's something that's proven to work for multiple dog owners. The tip number one is stay at home. If you had a plan to take your dog and go for a walk, watch the night sky and the fireworks in the city, this might not be a good idea for you. If you already did it before and you know your dog is safe, obviously you're welcome to do it. I used to take my dog to watch fireworks over the bay. We were far from fireworks, so we didn't really hear the sounds. We just saw the lights. And this didn't freak out my dog, so she was perfectly fine. But for example, if our neighbor's blowing fireworks in our area, my dog is barking and whining in the house. So if I know somebody's doing it on the street, I would never take my dog out, and I don't advise you to do so. The reason why we don't want to take our dogs out, because even if we know, like, my dog is perfectly off leash, they never pull, they never do anything funny, if they get really scared and triggered by fireworks, they're going to do something that they never did before. They're going to try to wiggle out of the harness or a collar. They're going to bolt, try to run away, and maybe you will not be able to hold them. And if they run away, they may get lost or hit by a car. Because when the dog is frightened and wants to run away, they just run wherever they can, as long as they can. And this is very dangerous. And when I say stay at home, I also mean don't hang out with your dog in the backyard if there is fireworks in the area. Because there are cases when dogs who never escaped the backyard got so freaked out from the boom of fireworks, so they managed to jump over the fence or found another way to escape the backyard. This is serious. I would not take this risks unless you already have previous experience with your dogs during fireworks and you know they're absolutely fine. My next tip is to create a safe hiding space for your dog. What do you mean by that? First of all, let's talk why dogs are actually afraid of fireworks. First, it's very loud. Also, it's very sudden. It's also a certain sound frequency that they're not used to hear on a regular basis. So it's just too unusual for them. They're like, oh my God, it's apocalypse, the world is collapsing, something like this. Also, if fireworks are being blown up in your area, there is a certain smell, gunpowder and stuff like this. We might not smell it, obviously, but your dog has a much more advanced smell than you, and they're going to smell it. So not only they hear something scary, but they smell something scary. And another thing, if you have lots of people, like crowds outside yelling, cheering and stuff, that can add to the equation, and dog will be like, that's definitely the world is going to the end. It's loud, it smells funky, never smelled like this before, or rarely smells like this before, and also people are freaking out. So the dogs, they obviously going to absolutely not understand what's going on and act accordingly. So by creating a hiding space, I mean that you need to create like a little like hiding nook or like calm cave, call it whatever you want, where the dog can be as far away from all those triggers, like remember smells, sounds, sometimes also lights, because if they flicker in your window, you know, like crowds of people cheering outside. So you want your dog to be as far from these things as possible. So the exposure to triggers is lower. So the lower is the exposure, the less is the reaction. That's how the nervous system works. The same how we talked, for example, about reactivity to other dogs. The further away we are from the other dog, the less your dog will react. The same here. The further away they're from the fireworks, the lower is the sound, the easier it's for them to cope. How do we create a hiding area? One of the great ideas is to use your closet. Let's say if it's in your bedroom or wherever in the middle of the house, or somewhere where it's quiet, far away from windows, far away from backyard patio door. For example, you can use a closet space and create a little nook for your dog. Bring some blankets, bring some towels, make it cozy, inviting. Maybe bring some favorite treats of your dog. I will talk about treats later. Bring food, water, whatever they need. What if you don't have a closet space to do it? Another place can be a bathroom, but bathroom is tricky. So some dogs actually like to hide in bathrooms because it's enclosed space and they feel much safer there. But make sure it's not echoey or boomy there. That's why, again, bring lots of blankets and towels and pillows, whatnot, so it will be less echoey and boomy. Oh yeah, let's say you can't use the bathroom, you don't have a closet. Let's say you have to stay in your room because you're renting a room and that's all you get. What you can do, first cover the windows, ideally cover them with blankets, because not only are they going to block the flickering light, but also they will block some of the sounds. And just create a cozy space either on your bed or on a couch, lots of blankets, something where your dog can cuddle in and feel more safe. Important. Don't force your dog into this space. Don't do it like, oh, you have to be there because that's very best for you. Offer your dog to go there, encourage or give them this option to be there. But if your dog absolutely doesn't want to stay in this place, don't force them, don't insist. Because the worst we can do in this moment, actually doing something to the dog who is already terrified. Ideally, offer them different places to hide and just snuggle and cope with the scary fireworks, but don't insist on anything. For some dogs, especially if they're very social, they like to cuddle, you're probably better off staying with them in this hiding spot. So if you need to stay in the bathroom with your dog, or on the floor next to the closet, or just in general on the floor cuddling with them, or on the couch, do it. If your dog doesn't want to be next to you, they prefer to be somewhere under the bed or whatever, under the couch, under the table, just let them be there. Just create that space cozy and nice for them, but don't overfuss it. 30. If you still have time, ask your vet for medication. Usually it's anti-anxiety, calming medication, maybe some sedatives. One of the drugs that are most popular for the fireworks and this type of situation is Sileo, or whatever your vet will prescribe to you. These are usually the quick-acting drugs, so that means you take it a few hours prior, they start acting quite quick, and they last a few hours. So you have to obviously make sure that you get a full instruction from your vet, when to give it, how to give it, and you have to follow the protocol to get the best results. Again, if you don't know yet whether your dog will be terrified or not, you might not take this route, but if you already experienced that your dog, let's say last fireworks season, was really scared, terrified, was running around, bumping into things and feeling very bad about it, I would always suggest to use this medication because it will be much easier for the dog to cope with it. That means next year they're not going to be anticipate the same amount of fear. If they can cope in an easier way, they're going to know okay, this is not as scary. If your dog has other noise sensitivity, definitely go for the medicine. Again, I can't say definitely, I'm not a vet. Obviously, you understand, I'm a dog trainer, not a veterinarian, and I guess the correct way would be definitely talk to your vet about this, because if the dog has other noise phobias, they definitely will have hard time coping with fireworks. Another important thing, again, if your dog has multiple noise phobias, so they're really terrified of certain sounds and there's a lot of things they get terrified from, consider doing a full medical checkup or consult a veterinary behaviorist. Why? Because noise phobias are often linked to some pain-related issue. Maybe it's GI issues, maybe it's some orthopedic muscle problems, but usually there is a reason why your dog has a noise phobia. The tip number 4, let's say you don't have time to go to the vet, or for some reason that's not a good solution for you to go for a prescribed medication. You can also try over-the-counter calming solution. There are calming chews, there are calming collars, there are calming sprays, and stuff like this. Obviously, this stuff is not going to be as efficient as a medication, but it does work for some dogs. It doesn't work for other dogs. And I would probably assume that if your dog has severe reaction, it might not work. But if it's just something like they get a little bit scared, but not too much, maybe do those things so to kind of help the dog to cope. Again, I will leave the links to all the mentioned products down in the description. You can try it, just don't expect it to have a miracle. Besides calming chews and calming sprays, we also have physical items that you can put on your dog. For example, there are noise cancelling headphones. There are different cheaper options on Amazon. Make sure you read reviews. There are also some brands like Muff Mats. What also helps to reduce the anxiety is such a thing. It's called Thunder Shirt. Basically, it's a vest that snugly sits on your dog. It applies a constant gentle pressure, and this gentle pressure is supposed to relax the body, relax the muscle, and help the dog to cope. I heard about Thunder Shirts that they absolutely help some people. So when dogs are scared, terrified, it really helps them. It kind of comforts them. And then there are other dogs, it just doesn't do nothing for them. So try it. If it doesn't work, keep in mind it might not work. The tip number 5, do a training to get your dog used to firework sounds. I have to say, if you're watching this video on a day of fireworks or a day before, you might not have enough time. But if you will notice that your dog freaks out during fireworks, maybe do this training after. You still have to get used to this thing at some point, so next year you don't have same issues. What kind of training we do? There is only one approach. We use the desensitization and counter conditioning protocols. You can Google, you can research it if you're nerdy and geeky. I will just explain briefly what it is. So the idea is that through desensitization, we make our dogs less noise sensitive. And in order to achieve that, we need to slowly expose them to fireworks. So usually the fireworks are very loud, very sudden. They only happen once a year. What we do instead, we on a daily basis, we expose our dogs to small amount on very low volume to the sound of firework, to the point where they eventually get used to it, because they're like, oh, I hear it every day, nothing scary. If you have a puppy, I definitely suggest you to do this type of training. It usually works better with younger dogs than with the dogs who are older and already have lots of negative experience around fireworks then. Okay, how are you gonna do it? You're gonna find a clip of sounds of fireworks, and I will leave some links down below in the description, and you're gonna play this clip ideally on TV or a sound speaker system. The reason you need TV or sound speaker system, because the sounds are more rich than whatever is on your phone. If you don't have anything, play on the phone, but usually it's more efficient TV or a speaker. So you're gonna play the sound on very low volume. The goal of this exercise is not to freak out the dog and hope they're gonna get used. No, that doesn't work. It's just gonna get them even more sensitive to sounds. No, the point is to play this music, the sound, like on such a low volume that the dog is like, whatever, I don't care. And then the next day you crank up the volume a little bit more, so the dog already heard on a lower level the sound, so they're like, I heard it yesterday. Yeah, and I noticed it's a little bit louder today, but it's okay. And then the next day you crank up again. So if your dog is consistently calm during this everyday process, they learn to be calm and they get used to hearing the sounds while being calm. If you rush through the process, if you crank up the volume too fast and your dog gets scared, or sometimes people complain like, I was using the sound, my dog didn't do anything, so I decided to blast it. No, that's the point of the training. You're teaching them to be calm around the sound. So they have to be calm. They have not to react, because if they're reacting, that means you're doing something wrong. Usually you need a couple of weeks of everyday training. You're going to play the sound like 5-10 minutes. You can play twice a day, like 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. So this is desensitization. We can also add a counter conditioning part to it. Counter conditioning means like if the dog has some bad reaction to the sound, we can add something pleasant that's going to change our dog reaction to it. So let's say if my dog hears the sound and they don't like it, if I pair it with something positive while my dog is calm and relaxed, they're going to eventually think like, wait a minute, every time I hear the sound, I get something nice. What nice you can do, if your dog is very playful, you can play the sound and play a tag or fetch in the house, like, just do some funny playtime. Or if your dog is a foodie, you can feed them while playing the sound. For example, you can use snuffle mats, you can use lick mats for smaller dogs. So while they're eating it, they're also going to hear the sound. Desensitization and counter conditioning protocols work quite well for sounds like knocking, like sounds of your, like, I don't know, vacuum cleaner and stuff like this. Unfortunately, we're not going to get 100% results with the fireworks, because whatever you hear on your TV is not the same what your dog going to hear in real life, because they're going to be more like variety of sounds, because, when you play this recording, it has a very reduced amount of frequencies and sounds. But it's still something, because if you're going to play something on TV and your dog's scared of the TV sound, they're definitely going to be scared of fireworks in real life. But if they at least get used to TV sounds, maybe it will somehow help them to cope better with the real fireworks. Tip number 6, you have to plan your routine on the day of fireworks. And if it's like several days, then for the several days. If your dog is extremely fearful, you already know they're going to be terrified, maybe you will have to plan the routine for the whole week before the fireworks. What do you mean by routine? You're going to prioritize rest. You're going to prioritize sleep time. And you're going to focus on low arousal activities. Why we do this? Because the dog's nervous system has a capacity to deal with stress. If they already experience lots of stress in their life before the fireworks evening, they will have less nervous system capacity, let's call it this way, to deal with it. This term is called trigger stacking. You can Google it if you're interested. So basically, when we stack different triggers on top of each other, the first trigger might be strong trigger, and your dogs can still cope with it because there was a first trigger, so they still have lots of capacity. But then like the trigger number 3 might be something mild, but your dog is completely losing it because they already are worn out by previous triggers. So that's why we have to stick to low arousal activities. For example, if you need to take your dog out, you will definitely take them not during the fireworks, but maybe early in the morning where there are no people, no other dogs. You're gonna take a calm, relaxing walk. Usually it's called decompression walk, slow walk. Maybe you can go hiking somewhere in the woods where there are no people, where it's just you and your dog, and you're like slowly strolling through the nature. Your dog sniffs a lot, explores the area, maybe using the long line, as I advised in my previous video. So your dog gets lots of sniffing, exploring, maybe like, I don't know, chewing on some pine cones or something. So something that will actually relax the dog's body, because this type of activities, they are very good for the dog. They give them mental stimulation, the mental enrichment, they tire the body, but tire the body in a way when they just go home and fall asleep, versus they get more hyper and want to do more stuff. You will try to stay away from like lots of fetch or other activities if your dog gets more overstimulated from this activity. So basically, if you go play fetch and then somewhere in the middle the dog is like, okay, I'm done, I'm tired, and they like laying down, then you can play fetch. But if you know your dog will play 40 minutes of fetch and then want more of exercise, then you're not going to do the fetch, because we don't want to stimulate the nervous system. We want to promote relaxed situation. You also want to prioritize the sleep. You want to figure out how much your dog's supposed to sleep. For example, adult dogs, they sleep between 12 14 hours. Senior dogs and puppies, they can sleep from 18 to 20 hours. So figure out what's the age of your dog and what's the appropriate sleep time for your dog. And you almost have to encourage them to sleep. So let's say if you're hanging out with your family in the living room and your dog usually gets also active because everyone is here visiting, maybe you have to put your dog in a different room and give them something to chew on. So they're going to finish their snack and just pass out. So you need to figure out what for your particular dog works as encouragement to sleep. If your dog is crate trained and you know, like they usually just go and sleep in their crate, then maybe you add some crate time. So you put them in a crate for an hour or two, then take them out. Put them in a crate, take them out. Again, depends on the age, size, I don't know, physical activity of your dog, but you have to give them as much rest as possible, because only rest and sleep can, restore the nervous system. So if your dog is already known to be like easily fearful, easily overstimulated, and then you overexercise them, and then they don't have time to rest before the fireworks, they're gonna cope with fireworks much worse. Also, if your dog is reactive or they have any other behavior issues, you want to keep them as low trigger as possible. So if you know your dog is afraid of strangers and you have visitors in the house, then you have to keep your dog away so they don't get overworked with the strangers. And then when the firework time comes, they're going to be completely out and about. The same if your dog is triggered by other dogs, don't on the day of fireworks or maybe even a couple of days before, don't take them to places where there are lots of dogs. Again, we already talked about this in the video, how to walk reactive dogs. So if you don't usually follow all those tips, these are the time to follow them to the T. So you want low arousal, lots of sleep and rest, low stimulation, and low trigger time. Again, if your dog is okay with fireworks, you're just listening to this video because you're curious to know, do you. But if you already know that you deal with issues around fireworks time, find some energy and time to implement these tips. The tip number 8. Remember how I told you to create a hiding nook for your dog? You're not gonna just create a hiding area, but maybe even stay with your dog there, especially if you know that your dog gets really terrified and they would, enjoy your support. It's important to say that, I don't know why, but people still perpetuate the myth that if you comfort or like caress a dog who is scared, they're gonna be even more scared and you're just gonna make it worse. It just does not work this way. We have a scientific proof that dogs who are actually getting support and comforted by their pet parents cope better with the stress. I mean, it works the same with us. Imagine if you're super stressed, you're scared, or you're, upset about something. If somebody comforts you, are you going to be more upset or actually less upset? Again, you have to judge by your own dog. Some dogs are very social and they like to, seek comfort with you. So if they want, let's say if you have a small dog and they want to jump on your lap, just let them do it, even if it's a larger dog and they like to jump on your lap. If you have a dog who's not super social, like for example, my dog, she's rarely seeking comfort with us. She's like very independent, loner lady. I'm not going to force it. So again, we create an option. We comfort the dog. If my dog wants to cuddle with me, she will be allowed to cuddle with me on the couch, on the bed, wherever she needs, whatever going to help her to cope with this. Because if my dog has positive experience coping with a stressful time, next time they're stressed again, they're going to have good memories about this stressful time. But if I'm ignoring the dog, or if I'm punishing the dog, or I make fun, like some people make fun of their dogs, like, oh, look at my stupid dog, she's running around and terrified. It's just fireworks. So the dog going to remember that this was a terrifying situation when I was on my own, nobody helped me. There is no bond, no relationship with the pet parent. We don't want that for our dogs. It's also important to say, when I say comfort your dog, don't go too emotional about this. So let's say I have a dog and my dog is terrified. Oh wait, my dog is still leashed up from a previous video. Let's unleash it. So let's say I have a dog who's terrified and it wants to spend time with me. The dog comes to me, wants to sit on my lap. I'm just gonna, keep my dog on my lap, and then maybe I'm gonna gently stroke it a little bit. And okay, what I don't need to do, I don't need to be like, oh my God, baby girl, don't worry, baby girl, don't worry, everything will be fine, it's okay. So don't do it, because the dogs, they can read our emotion, because they can feel and smell how we feel. So if we're going to be terrified, the dog will be like, oh my God, I knew it, the world is going to the end because my pet parent is scared, I should be scared too. There is actually a study that people who in general have anxiety and are very nervous, very neurotic, they usually tend to have dogs who also have anxiety. Again, I'm not here to blame on anxious people. I'm often a neurotic person myself, but you have to remind yourself that if you can stay calm when your dog is terrified, it's going to be much better for your dog than both of you are terrified. If you're unable to stay calm, maybe ask somebody else. Maybe if you're staying with friends, or if you're lucky you have a partner or something like this, maybe ask somebody else to comfort the dog. So it's very important to stay calm, give a very calm reassurance to the dog, respond to them if they seek comfort or cuddling, but not freak out ourselves. There's actually a funny saying about this. I heard it from one of the dog trainers. She says, it's only one of you who can be a shit show today. So if your dog is a shit show, unfortunately, you're not allowed to be one as well. Also, if you decide to pet your dog or cuddle with your dog, be very attentive to how they feel about it. Some dogs will feel better when we pet them. Some dogs actually don't like it. The way how we can understand whether our dog enjoys us being, us petting them in a moment, we can look at the dog. If, let's say, they look away, or they start lip leaking or the yawning, they might not enjoy us petting them. So what I would do instead, I would stop petting my dog for 5 seconds and wait what they're gonna do. Most dogs, they would solicit the pets. They would be like, wait a minute, why not petting me? Hey, pet me. So this way you're gonna know my dog is actively asking for it. And if your dog leans away, or you stopped petting and they never solicit more, they kind of moving away, then in this moment they don't want to be pet. And again, it's the same with us. Sometimes when we are scared and terrified, we want some comfort of another person, and sometimes when we are stressed and terrified, we just want to be alone, leave us alone. So try to see and notice what your dog would want in the moment and give them that. Again, somebody might say oh my God, Stella, are we seriously gonna treat our dogs like it's a precious something? But the idea is that in our society, we often don't give our dogs choices. So we don't give them the choice. Do they want to be here or there? Do they want to go here or there? Do they want to be pet or not? We just do whatever we feel like is okay. Sometimes we over helicopter parent them. Sometimes we neglect them because we don't know what's best. But what's the biggest problem is that we don't give our dogs enough choice. By giving them choice, you actually develop a more dependent, more confident dog that will be actually having more skills to cope with stress. So increasing the choice will increase the resistance to stress. Tip number 9. It's a weird, not even a tip, it's like a life hack. In some situations, if your dog is really scared of the sounds and there is no way you can soundproof your house from sounds, it's a good idea to use a trick with a loud music. So instead of staying in a quiet house and hearing boom, boom of the fireworks, we're gonna actually turn on the TV really loud. So when the fireworks boom, they actually get diluted in a general sound. So, if the room is quiet, every loud sound will be more like scary to us. But if there is lots of loudness, let's say you are in a concert, you're not going to be as startled by a loud sound. So it's the same. The official term for this, it's called sound masking. It can be actually used in other situations as well, especially if your dog is noise sensitive. So you just create a baseline sound that covers other sounds, and that actually helps the dogs to be less reactive to sounds. In terms of fireworks, there's lots of low frequency sounds, so you need to figure out the music that's rock music that has lots of bass, percussion, and stuff like this. So you need the same type of music that's going to cover the fireworks. It's not going to cover them completely, because the fireworks are very lots of different sounds, but it will help a little bit. Some dogs might be scared of loud TV, so obviously test it before doing it. So as soon as you hear this video, just go with your dog to your room, turn on TV or whatever speaker, and make sure your dog doesn't freak out from it. So they just whatever. If they don't freak out, use this trick. If your dog freaks out from loud noises, obviously you can't use this trick. Then just create any background noise that will at least somehow help the dog to cope with the sudden booms of fireworks. What we can use for sound masking in this case, we can use some, some calm music. We can use some brown or white noise. Some people turn on the fan, or you can turn on some appliances like dishwasher, washing machine, whatever appliances you have that can run on a low kind of noise. This will help your dog a little bit. Again, this is a trial and error. It depends on your dog, your situation. You might not need this advice. You might need to try different things before you figure out what will work. Okay, and last but not least, see if you can keep your dog busy during the fireworks. The reason I actually put this advice in the end, because sometimes people advise it as something as a first option. Like, for example, oh, give your dog some yummy treats, or give your dog something like, I don't know, some like brain games or some food puzzle or something. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as it seems, because if your dog is eating food during fireworks, that probably means that they're not very terrified of fireworks, because the way how our nervous system responds to stress, if you're very stressed, or if your dog is very stressed, they will most probably refuse to eat food. That's why, for example, we don't really use food during separation anxiety training, because for some dogs it can actually make it worse. So again, try it. If it works, then you're lucky. At least like you, again, the same how we did with desensitization counter conditioning, your dog is hearing the scary fireworks sounds outside. If they are able to eat, at least we're pairing something positive with something scary and stressful. The same if your dog is a very playful one, maybe play lots of games with them, just interact with them, just spend time with them. If your dog for some reason, not some reason, but we know what's the reason, they're too stressed to eat or play, don't insist, don't get frustrated, just offer it to the dog. If they don't want, they don't want. Maybe they're just too terrified and not capable to do it. What type of activities I would actually offer to the dog? Maybe I will do some play, again, not like a high arousal, like a fetch, maybe something low arousal. I don't know, you can wrestle with your dog, you can play, like if your dog is okay, you can do some play biting when you kind of wrestle, like push each other a little bit. Most dogs, they actually would enjoy it. Maybe just cuddle and like, I don't know, do like play biting. If your dog likes tug, you can do like some low energy tug when you just like, like maybe you're on the floor and you just like, they're laying down or something, they're biting on something, just like slightly tugging, like something low arousal. If we talk about food, there are like several activities that help dogs like self-regulate and self-soothe. These are usually licking, chewing, and desiccating things. So if you can give your dog like a frozen Kong that they need to chew and lick on, that's perfect. I would suggest not give them food like a kibble and dry food. You want something soft that they can lick on, or something like a long-lasting, large, I don't know, bully stick that they can chew on, because chewing, licking, and like destroying something helps to relax. If you have some boxes at home and your dog likes to destroy things, maybe some toys, maybe some boxes, just give them those things so they can destroy and rip it apart. This also helps to kind of like cope with things. Again, in the end of the day, you have to know your dog better. If something doesn't work, or like, oh, that's definitely not going to work with my dog, don't do it. As a dog trainers, we usually say we don't train a dog, we train a dog in front of us. So fortunately, since I don't know your particular dog, I don't know which of these tips will work best for you, but try. And if you want to share your experience, if you have any other tips that we didn't mention here before but actually worked for you, or if you try something and it does work for you, share with this channel your story, leave information in the comments, and I will be very grateful for you. Okay, see you in my next video.